Hello there everybody, it's the Dinosaur here, and welcome back to another Gamemaker tutorial. And this is going to be the first of a series of for a platformer shooter type kill 'em stuff game. So, I have already pre-programmed most of this. This will be like a series, I think I mentioned that. Either way, I pre-programmed a lot of this. And so I'm going to show you right off the bat what we're going to be doing. Not wasting any time here. I've got it on a second screen, so we're going to wait for that to load. But this is going to be, you know, like a new series. I think I mentioned that 3 times now. But kind of not really for beginners, kind of advanced. So anyways, here's our thing right here. This is what we're doing. So we got a little guy. It's like our platformer. We'll jump, jump, jump. We got these enemies right here. We'll shoot them up. Bam, bam, bam. Right? Kill him. This guy's over here. The enemies right now don't do anything. They will eventually. We'll get there. But at this moment, they don't. We reload. So over the bottom left, we have like our ammo and stuff like that. We've got equipped the power combine. And then if we come up here, we got like a new gun. Boink. That we can like equip by pressing E. And then we can switch between them by pressing 1 and 2. And so we got the pulse repeater, which will like shoot a bunch. But doesn't do a lot of damage. It doesn't have as much knockback. Whoa. Get him. So anyways, and then we can like press R to reload manually. And then we wait a second. This one's got a long reload time too. And then boom, 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 boom. Kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him. So today, however, the part of the game that we're going to be getting done is like the platforming and stuff like that. Just the basic systems. Now, something to keep in mind before we start is that I've like pre-done, as you can see, like all the sprites and stuff like that. So all my sprites are going to be done. However, and I'll show you kind of what you need so that you can kind of pause or whatever and get that done so that we can go on with this tutorial and have a great time. So let's do it. All right. So first off, let's get some sprites in here. So first, let's create a new group. We're just going to call this player, because that's where all the player things are going to go. We'll create a sprite, SPR, and we'll just call this one player, because this will be like it's standing. Animation. So let's see, games. Let's find our folder with all this stuff. Tutorial sprites. Boom. Here's all the kind of stuff we need. We got this player right here. So this animation is pretty simple. He's just kind of standing, just kind of chilling. Easy peasy. Let's center that to make sure it's all good. And let's get some more in here. Player. Run. Something to keep in mind too is if when you're making your own sprites for this game is that you want your player to be facing right, because the game will like face him left or right depending on what's happening. So just make sure your player's facing right in your animation. So here's our run animation. It's more like just a casual walk or whatever, but you know, it works. And then if we add another one, player, run, and then we're gonna go back. So we're gonna load this in, running backwards, which for me, it's just the same as the running forwards animation, just reversed, because that's just what I did. Then we got SPR, player, jump. Whoa, not Juno. Let's actually add that in. Boop, boop, boop. Now this is like a 3-image animation. Basically what's happening here is that this is what our player is going to look like when he's jumping up. This is what our player is going to look like once he's hit like the peak. And this is what our player is going to look like as he's falling. As you've seen before. Let's just make sure this is also centered. Good. Centered. Yep. Centered. Great. Alright, I think we have all of our sprites in place as far as what the player needs to do. Oh, we need one more. And this is actually really important. We need a player mask. And this allows us to, there it is. What this will do is that it'll like make sure our collisions are like the same and stuff like that, because if you have different sprites, your player can get stuck and like bad stuff happens. So make sure you have a mask that's a nice even square and where you want your player to hit. So we're going to save this real quick. Okay. So now if we look on the other screen, let's open up a player and get our stuff going. So now let's make a new object. I'll call this object. player. We're going to give it a sprite of just our object player. And then we want our mask to be the player mask. Boink. And that's all we really need to do there. First off, however, I actually want to make blocks so that our player has something to collide with. So let's go object block. Block. This is really simple. Well, there's no sprite for that. So let's go ahead and make a sprite for that. Let's just add this in and go SBR block. And I saved this one too, just right there, or solid. I guess you can call it as well. You can really call these whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. This is just the way that I've named them because I like to do that. So we'll give it our sprite. We'll make this solid, and that's honestly all we need to do with that. Oh, yeah, we'll keep it visible for now, but later on we'll change that. So that's it. So now we got our player and our block, things we get. So let's actually program our player to do something. Now, we're gonna pop in a step event here. That's where we're gonna do this. Let's drag in some code. Boink. All right, we're gonna make a little note here. Put 3 little slashes, and we're gonna say move player. That way it'll, if we hit that, it'll go right there, so we kind of know what's happening. There'll be a lot of codes in this step event. I like to kind of separate them into different blocks and stuff. Now this is a pretty popular way to do this. It's a really effective way. It works really well. It's a program. So if you see, there's other people, of course, other programmers that do it. I got this personally from a YouTuber called Heartbeast. So if you want to check him out, that would be awesome, because this is mostly where I see this kind of technique used, but I know others do it as well. But let's do it. So first we're going to start var, and we're going to make this thing called hinput, and we're going to say equals our keyboard check, and then let's see. So first off, we are going to do our left, or actually our right movement. This is, so what we're doing is that we got this little function because we want it to be the D key, so that's what we're doing right now. Is that if it's the D key, if it's pressed, this will be true. All right, and then we're gonna subtract keyboard check, and we're gonna do the same thing, ORD, except we're gonna do the A key. So basically what will happen is that if this is true, it'll technically be a 1, right? So if just our D key is pressed, it'll be a 1, and this will be like a 1, and then we can times like our speed and everything that to get going. If this is a 1, like as in it's pressed, and this is a 1, as in that's pressed, so both A and D are pressed, this will come out as 0, and then everything like our speed and stuff will be times by 0, and we won't go anywhere. And then if this is 1, that means this will be 0, 0 minus 1, so it'll be -1, and then everything will be times by -1. It's a kind of a cool way to do this. It's really simple, saves a lot of space, to be honest. So now we got some other stuff to do, but actually before we do this, we have like this little code right now that'll get our key presses, but we actually need to make a create event here that has all of our variables and stuff in it. So let's drag this out and put some code in our create event. All we really need right now is speed equals 3. That's how fast we're going to move. We got our accel, which is our acceleration. We're going to keep that at 1. And then we got this thing called ACC. I think we use this. Hold on, let me check, because I haven't super looked at the code. I'm just trying to remember what ACC does, if it's even related to the movement. It doesn't actually look like it, so which is fine. We won't worry about it for now, because I wonder what else I use it for. Well, you know, we'll figure it out later in the future. And then we just need 2 other variables, hspeed equals 0 and vspeed equals 0. And this will just kind of keep track of where we're moving and how. Then we just need 1 more variable. We'll call it jump, and we're going to call this 8. This is how like high we're going to jump, like how fast we're going to jump. The higher this is, the higher we'll jump. These are the numbers that I found and I like, but of course you can change them as you like. So we got these set. Now there's one more thing we actually got to do before we can get on with the rest of the code, is that we want to set our gravity. And the way I like to do gravity is that basically we come into right here our macros. This is also Gamemaker Studio 1.4. I don't know if I mentioned that. I don't think I did. But we come in here in our macros, go all configurations. So now right here, we can put insert, and then in capital letters, we can put gravity. In our value, we can put 1.4. So this basically sets a constant. It's like any sort of other number that we can use. So anytime we type gravity in capital letters in our code, it'll actually be a 0.4. That way, everything else in the game that uses gravity, we can just type gravity, and they will all be on the same page. So if we want to ever adjust it, we just come here, change this number, and everything else will go with it. So it's really useful, really helpful. And we'll set that. Easy peasy. So now, everything else is in place. Everything's ready. So let's get to it. We got this one line of code. And now let's actually put the rest in so our player can move. So now we're going to say if h input is not equal to 0, as in if we're moving somehow, we want our h speed plus equals our h input times our acceleration that we all put in the create event. Then we want to say h speed equals clamp. Whoa. In here we're going to put h speed. In here we're going to put minus speed, and then speed. What this will do is that it say if this is -1 or 1, or not equal to 0, it's going to add to that variable h speed, and I'll add a time like our h input, which is going to be -1 or 1 times our acceleration. Then what we're going to do is we're going to clamp it right here with this function. So basically, our variable h speed, like how fast we're going to move, is not going to go above our maximum speed or below like our negative maximum speed. Really simple, easy way to do that, to make sure that everything's going really easily. Then we can say otherwise, like if it is equal to 0, h speed equals lerp, or linear interpolation. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure though. H speed. Then we're going to put 0 and 0.2. What this basically does is that if we're not actually going to be moving anywhere, if this is equal to 0, right? What it's going to do is that it's going to take our h speed variable, or how fast we're going, and it's going to approach 0 by 20%. That's kind of what this is doing right here. So this is a really good, useful function if you've got something to kind of give it that kind of speed up and kind of gradually slow down effect. It's a really easy way to do like friction and stuff like that. We just put that in there, and anytime we're not actually moving, it'll slow us down by moving back and forth. So right now what we can do is that then we can go right now we can just put h speed, or x plus equals h speed. So now we can just test this out really quick, just to make sure this is all working. So now we're going to create a room. We're just going to call this room level 1. Well, not level 11. That's crazy. Then what we can do is that we can just put our object inside and call it good. So now, let's give this a test. Giving it a test. And there we go. So we got a little player. As we can see, it's kind of slow because our FPS is 30 right now. But you can see that we kind of speed up. Our acceleration is pretty high. I think I want to change it, but you see that we kind of slow down, we kind of slide a little bit. And that's what we're doing. So that works. Awesome. Let's actually go into our level and make it 60. And let's test it again just to kind of get an idea of what it's really going to look like. And then, so this is a better idea. We kind of got this slow down, speed up effect. It's subtle, but it's really cool. It's really nice. Then, so one thing I'm going to do is actually change our acceleration to 0.5. Let's try and make that a little bit better. See if I can get a little bit smoother. So, be a little bit better. I think, yeah, that feels a little bit better. It's still pretty quick, but that's kind of the idea. I still want our player to speed up faster than he slows down, so. But now that's good. And you can see that if we like switch directions, it'll like slow down and then like start moving us in the other direction, which is really cool. So, now that we got that figured out, we got some other codes to do. So let's put in gravity. And gravity is actually pretty simple. We'll just put it in right here. We're going to say if not place underscore meeting. And we're going to say x and y plus 1 object block, which is why we made our object block beforehand. And this will say if there's not a block underneath us, we're going to say v speed plus equals, in our capital letters, gravity, which is 0.4. Otherwise, if we are on the ground, if keyboard check pressed, and we're going to go ORD to get a letter, and we're going to put W in there because that's our jump key. We're going to say v speed minus equals jump, which we set in our create event, and then that's going to be 8. Oh wait, I got this a little bit wrong. Let's move this subtract 2 right there. Equals negative jump, which is going to be a little bit better. So now let's go into this, and let's put some blocks in here to make our player stop when they're falling down. Let's just put these in. There we go. So then we can put a little bit up here to be like, whoa, I think the player can only jump like 2, so let's just do that. And let's do that. So now we'll go into here and we'll see if our player will jump, which he should. The only thing is that he won't stop. Alright, so we're still floating in the air. That's awesome. Let's see. Why not? Oh yeah, this is easy. This is good. So we just have one thing to do. We actually have to just come down here and we have to go y plus equals v speed, because we weren't actually changing our y based off of our v speed, which is good, which is easy to fix. So now we'll just wait a second and then we should be good. So we fell all the way through the ground. That's awesome too, because we have more code to do. But our gravity worked, and if we stopped, we could jump. So we need to do just a little bit more coding to make sure we actually like collide with blocks, because right now we don't really actually have any collisions going on here. So let's just put that in. So first, let's get our left and right collision going. We're going to put this right here. And I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So now we're going to say if place meeting x plus h speed, y object block. So it's saying if with our movement speed, if there's going to be a block in the next step, we're going to say while not place meeting x plus sine h speed, y object block. Go to our brackets here. Let's get another parenthesis right there. Then we're going to say x plus equals sine h speed. And then we're going to say h speed equals 0. Let's explain what this does. So if we're going to hit a block in our next step, what we're going to do is that this while loop will just go until this is not true. So while there isn't a block, 1 pixel over depending on where we're moving. So what this sine function does is that it returns a 1 or a -1 depending on the sign of our h speed. So basically, if we're moving, in our case, it'll be moving left or right. What it will do is that this will just move our character, and then so if there's not a block, like 1 pixel over in the direction that we're moving, we're going to go ahead and move our x over 1 pixel. So because of our sign, it'll give us 1 or -1 depending on which direction that we're moving. Then, so this, what we'll do is that this will put us right up next to blocks as we're moving towards them. Because then, after this is true, after this adds up and after there is a block the next pixel over, this will stop, and then it will make our h speed 0, and it will stop us. So then we just we keep this function down here, x plus equals h speed. So basically, if there is no block going to hit us, our h speed is just going to stay whatever we set it to up here. This will just set it to 0, which means it'll add nothing, and will stop when we hit a block, going left or right. Then we're going to do basically the same thing for our y. We're going to say if place meeting x, y plus v speed object block, and then we're going to say while not place meeting x, y plus sine v speed, if I can type. One thing you must know, oh, we need to put something in there, is that I am terrible at typing, which is funny, being a programmer. But we're going to put object block in there, we need another parenthesis, awesome. Then we're going to say y plus equals sine v speed. And then we're going to say v speed equals 0. So now, yeah, this will do the same thing, whereas that it will check whether we're actually going up or down. So it's a really good way to do this, is that it will do the same thing, is that it will, in while, like in this while loop, it'll constantly move us closer to whichever direction we're going until we actually meet up with the block, and then it will stop us. Just like in the one before, but up and down. Just doing a little bit of double checking to make sure this is all right, and it looks like it is. So one thing that we need to do is that we gotta go y or v speed equals clamp. We're gonna use the clamp function again, v speed. So we're gonna say the most, like the fastest that we can move up is -30. And then the fastest we can move down is 12. Basically, this is just limiting how fast up and down we can go. Then we're going to do the same thing where we just go y plus equals v speed. All this together should get our player to move around and interact with our environment. So let's see if it does, which it should. So we stopped when we hit the block. We can move left, we can move right. When we move right, we hit this block, and then we can jump, boink, boink, up the blocks. So pretty great. We got this working. And we can jump, jump, jump. But our player, he's looking a little weird because he's floating around kind of like a ghost. So let's go in and fix that and animate him a little bit to make sure that our player looks a little bit more normal. So this is how I like to do this, is that we're going to go back into our sprite. Our object player. We're going to go in the step event. And I like to split up different things into different code blocks. So I'm going to put another one in here. I'm going to say adjust sprite for movement. Just so then I've got move player, so anything that has to do with moving the player, I can come in here, edit that. If I need to change something about the sprites, I can just come in here and edit this as well. But it's in the same step event, so it'll all go the same way. So we're going to put in a little bit of a kind of a pre-code here. If mouse underscore x is greater than x, image x scale equals 1. Else image x scale scale equals -1. Okay. What this is doing is that, like in the other, like the video I showed you before about the game, if our mouse is to the right of our player, as in the mouse's x is greater than our player's x, our image scale will be 1, as in our player will continue to face right because that's where the mouse is going. Otherwise, like if the mouse is behind our player, it'll set the image x scale to -1, which will basically flip the sprite of our player, which is pretty cool. It's an easy way to kind of do flipping, but if you're not doing any mouse thing, what you would do is that you could take image x scale, and we can actually show that right here. What I can do is I can comment this out, and if we wanted to do this, we can go into our h input here, and we can just say image x scale equals, and then we can go sine h speed, because this will also give us a 1 or -1 depending on what we're going, and that's what our x scale is going to go off of. So if we run this, our player should like face left or right depending on what we're doing. So if you're doing a normal platforming game, you see, we have our player that faces left or right depending on where we're going. Other platformers that don't have any shooting involved and stuff, this is the way you'd want to do that, to get your player moving left and right and whatnot. But our game's a little different. So we're going to go back into our step. We're going to go move player. We're going to take this line, and we're going to remove that, because that's not where we want that. We want to put this right here. Now what will happen is, if we go and we test this out, is that our player will face left and right depending on where our mouse is. And we can see that right here. So, as you can see, as the mouse is over here, he's facing towards it. Mouse over here, he's facing towards it. And eventually when we get a gun, it'll face towards the mouse and whatnot. But for now, this is what we have. So now, we got this in place. So let's get our sprite, our player, to do more animations, to do some animations and stuff. So, first, we're going to do this. We're going to go if place meeting x and y plus 1, comma, object block. Basically, it's saying if we are on the ground, we're going to go if h speed is greater than or equal to 1, or h speed is less than or equal to -1. Basically, what this does is that if we're moving left, or if we're moving right with over our speed 1, or our speed is below -1, basically because of our acceleration and deceleration, it's only going to be animating our player within like a margin. Because say if our player's moving like just a little bit, so our player's not really going anywhere, but he's still technically moving, we want there to be a point where our player stops animating. So another way that we can do this, no, we want to keep this that the way. Yeah, so basically this keeps us from, because it looks weird if our player is like animating, even if we're not moving like very much. So this just checks to make sure that we're moving a decent speed so that we can animate our player. So now we're going to say if h speed is less than 0. Basically, if we're moving left. And then in this, we're going to say if mouse underscore x is greater than x, as in if our mouse is to the right of our player. We're going to say sprite index equals SBR player run back. And then we're going to run backwards. Because that means our player is facing right, but we're going to be moving left, as in, so our player is going to be moving backwards. And we're going to say otherwise, if our player is to the left, as in our player is going to be moving to the left and also facing to the left, we're going to say sprite index equals SBR player run. So he's going to run forward. And then basically we're going to do the same thing, but moving the other direction. So then we can say else if h speed is greater than 0. Whoa. And we pretty much do the same thing, but reversed. If mouse underscore x is less than x, as in if our mouse is to the left, then we want sprite index to be SPR player run back. Otherwise, sprite underscore index equals SPR player run. And then what we're going to do is that we got our little bracket right here. We can see we can highlight it blue. So basically, if our h speed is then not within this margin, what we want to do is we're going to come down here. We're going to say else. We're going to say sprite index equals SPR player. So if we are moving a bit, it's going to check it's going to check to see if we're moving or where we're moving. It's going to check the mouse position and then give us our running animation depending on what's happening. Same thing here. But if we're not moving fast enough, our animation is just going to be the standing animation. So let's give that a try. Let's check that out and see how that looks. And it should be good, because now our player looked a little bit weird. So now as you see, we're standing, we're not doing anything, and as we go, we run, and then we stop. We look this way. So then we move backwards, our player looks like he's running backwards. And then our player looks like he's running backwards again. But if here he's running forward, here he's running forward, backwards. So, pretty cool. And then when we stop moving. So it's really cool, but now our player, as you can see, he kind of runs in the air. And if you want that to be the thing, then you can go ahead and have that. But I don't like it too much. So that's why we have our jump animation. So we're just going to put one little bit of code back on the end of that. So let's go into our player, our step, and adjust our sprite. And at the very end, so we have this if right here that says if we are on the block, right? It says if we're on the ground. So we're going to find this right here. That's where that bracket goes. What we're going to do is we're going to say otherwise, like if we're going to say if we're in the air, we're going to say sprite index equals SPR jump. SPR player jump. That's what we called it. But our jump, we're going to now, because our jump is in one sprite, but the frames in the sprite are different depending on how we're moving. So now we're gonna change that. So we're gonna say if v speed is greater than 0, as in if we're moving, is less than 0. Sorry about that. As in if we're moving upwards, we want our image index to be 0. So like our jumping sprite, we're gonna say else if v speed is greater than 0, as in if we're moving down, we want our image index to be equal to 2, because that's our falling image in the sprite. Because if I can pull that up, this is what we're doing. Is we have our jump sprite, and then we're changing our image. So 0 is our jumping, 2 is our falling right here, and then we're going to set 1. So we're going to say else image index equals 1. Is that if we happen to be 0, if we're in the air and our v speed happens to be 0 for like that split second, we're gonna be in that kind of in between thing. And then not only that, and then we just gotta do one more thing because because we moved the FPS up. What I want to do is slow the animations down so it looks a little bit better. So in the create event, we're gonna go in here, and we're just gonna say image speed equals 0.5. 0.5. So basically we're gonna half it. So then at this point our player should be able to move left and right because we've seen that before, and then our player will jump accordingly. So everything will look a bit better. So now we're falling. As you see, we jump, and our jump animation is going. He's like really small on the screen there. We'll fix that later, of course. We'll set views and stuff to zoom into him, but now we're jumping. So we can see like our jump animation when we go up and then when we fall. We can get a better look right here because we can jump and then we fall. Now we're stuck over here, but it's okay. So that's pretty much everything as far as movement goes. So we can move around and interact with our environment a little bit. Next time we're going to be giving our guy a gun so we can shoot at some stuff. But we're going to be setting up actually setting up right from the get-go the system that sets up the guns and makes it so we can like add new guns really easily and whatnot. So thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to see more of this crap. As for me, I'm out of here and I'll see you guys next time. Adios.